Prompt Builder is our newest technology. It allows you to activate prompts in your flow of work and generate AI applications that are powered by these prompt templates. Now, first, you have to think about trust, right? If we're bringing data into our prompt, we need to make sure that the way that we're bringing data is secure, making sure we're respecting all the access permissions and bringing it into our prompts securely. We also need to secure how the data goes over to those large language models and comes back, making sure we mask any sensitive data. Then we need to also make sure that we're enriching the prompt with the right data, whether it's data from your CRM, like merge fields, whether you want to bring in additional logic through flows or even Apex. And in the future, if you want to even reference data from Data Cloud coming from external systems, we want to make that possible for you to do through Prompt Builder. And finally, these prompts are super extensible, meaning they can literally be invoked from any interface. Whether you want to invoke them from a Lightning Web Component, from a flow, we allow you to access these prompts and execute them from any interface. Now, with our first version of this GA product, we've come out with some out-of-the-box templates for you. So first, we have sales templates to make it much easier to compose and draft and refine your emails. We also have record summary templates in case you want to summarize specific records like opportunities or leads. And we also have field description templates in case you want to, for example, generate a field description that summarizes the contents of a case. Now, what are some use cases that we can think of here? As far as different use cases, right now we're going to start by showing you an example from both sales and service. With sales, you can think about generating a personalized sales outreach that kind of personalizes itself based on your company's brand and voice and tone. And you can do this all at a single click. And then we also have another example within a service scenario where you can actually generate a case summary that's structured and standardized to the rest of your organization automatically as soon as a case gets created. So to show you this all in action, I'd love to welcome Luke. Luke, take it away.
All right. Hey everyone, how's it going? My name's Luke Levasser. I'm also a product manager on the Prompt Builder team with Avantika and Kevin here. I have a recording, but instead of that, I am going to actually show you Prompt Builder in the wild with a live demo here. So like Avantika said, the first use case that we are going to touch on is that of a sales email generation workflow. As an AE, I spend a ton of time every day doing outreach to my contacts, creating these personalized emails, recommending the right products in these emails, and then distributing this to my leads and following up on them. So the place that I've done that historically in Salesforce is in the email composer. And when I open this up today, I'll see that everything looks just about the same, except for this Draft with Einstein button in the bottom left. When I click on the Draft with Einstein button, some of these prompt templates that Avantika was mentioning will actually show up here. I have some standard prompt templates that Salesforce ships out of the box with our sales email functionality. And I also have this custom prompt template, recommend relevant products. So let's go ahead and invoke that. And then while the LLM is generating the relevant product email, let's see what's happening behind the scenes. So navigating into setup, we now have Prompt Builder available in the quick navigation panel on the left side of the screen. In Prompt Builder, you can see a list of various prompt templates segmented by type, right? So at the top of the list here, we have all of our sales email templates. We also have a couple of field generation templates at the bottom that we'll get into in a second. The template that we just invoked was the recommend relevant products template. So let's click into that and see what it looks like in Prompt Builder. So this is Prompt Builder. I would imagine most of you have seen this at this point at TDX. We've been showing this off in so many amazing demos. But to set the ground once more, there's a few things I want to call it in Prompt Builder. Right here, front and center, is the prompt template workspace. This is where you create your prompt templates. This is a text entry box that is augmented by a resource picker in the top right here. The resource picker is what enables you to ground your prompts in relevant CRM data, right? So for this prompt template, this sales email, we are distributing it to a contact. Because we're distributing it to a contact, we're able to ground our data on fields off of the contact object. To do this, all we have to do is navigate to the resource picker, click on recipient, which in this case is the contact, and then we can pull in, for example, the recipient's business phone number, the recipient's contact ID, or the recipient's first and full name. Here, as Avantika mentioned when she was describing how to set up your prompt, we're specifying the instructions at the top of the email, at the top of the template, excuse me, including relevant information about the recipient right here. And then in addition to these merge fields that we're using to pull in field data into this prompt template, we're also using a flow to dynamically ground this prompt template in more complex logical scenarios. So let me show you that flow now. When we jump over to the flow, we can see that this is a new flow type that we've shipped with Prompt Builder, a template-triggered prompt flow. The template type of this flow matches up with that of the template type of the prompt. So this is how the flow is made available in the resource picker for use in the prompt. Now what we're doing in this flow is we're actually using just standard flow logic to loop through all of the active products in our organization. And then we have this new action in the flow called add prompt instructions. The add prompt instructions action is a super simple action to embed into any of your flows. What you do here is you simply spell out in text the content that you want to embed into your prompt template. So in this case, we're just saying that the list of all the products will follow. And then as we loop through each product that was retrieved from the flow, we're again using the resource picker to include relevant field information about each product in our prompt template. So navigating back to the prompt template, when we actually go and resolve this flow, when we hydrate the prompt with our CRM data, we're pulling in not just the merge field data from the relevant contact record, but also the data returned by this flow into the resolution pane in the bottom left here. So let's go ahead and see this in action. When we click preview, so what I've just done there is I've specified a specific contact record to run this prompt template against. And when we click preview, you'll see that the prompt resolution in the bottom left panel is replacing these merge fields, such as recipient name, with the actual client's name, John Amos, from the Salesforce record. Additionally, the flow is providing us this output right here, looping through all of our products and picking the relevant information that we specified in the flow definition to be included in the prompt. Then in the bottom right here, we have our response from the LLM. So every time that we click the preview button here, we're actually calling the LLM. We are pulling this directly via OpenAI, via any other model provider that you might have hooked up to your prompt in the right panel here. And we are showing a real response. So in Prompt Builder, you can iterate on the prompt. You can version it by saving it as new versions. And you can iterate on this, testing against different records, testing against different LLMs to ensure that the responses coming back from the LLM are accurate across different records in your Salesforce org. So now that I've tested out this prompt in Prompt Builder, I decided I like the output from the LLM here with version 3. I'm going to go ahead and activate the prompt, which we've already done here. So then, navigating back to the AE's experience in Sales Cloud, we can see that Einstein has generated the same, or a similar email, not the same email, as LLMs aren't deterministic, but it's generated a similar email here in the email composer. And we can see that we're tailoring this to John, to the contact that we are viewing on currently, that we're composing an email for. And not just that, Einstein is pulling the best product recommendation for John based on a set of criteria that's specified in field level data on the product, right? So you can use the LLM to do a little bit of reasoning for you here as well, to specify, this is the best product for this client based on this criteria. So that's our sales email use case. Super excited to show that to you all. At this point, I'm going to take a little bit of a turn and start looking at the experience of a service agent who is just picking up John Amos as a new contact that they're going to start working with. So still in Sales Cloud, it would be the same page layout in Service Cloud. But what we're looking at here is John's contact page once again. Now, as a service agent starting work with John Amos, one of the first things that I would want to understand, to wrap my head around, is what is my interaction history with John? What open cases does he have filed against me? What's the sentiment? What are the general vibes that he's giving off in our previous communication? To do that today, without Prompt Builder, that's going to require clicking into every case that John has open, right? Trying to wrap my head around what the subject is, what the current status is, what the interaction history has been. Now, with Prompt Builder, however, we are able to let Einstein do the heavy lifting of summarizing all of that case information about John's previous interactions. So you'll notice here, I've added a custom field to the contact page layout called Open Cases Summary. And on the right side of this field, there's a little sparkle icon. This sparkle icon indicates that the field is enabled with Draft with Einstein functionality. So when we go ahead and click this sparkle icon, we'll see that the Einstein window pops up in the bottom right of my page layout here. And now what's happening behind the scenes is, again, we're invoking a prompt template that I'll show you in just a second here, based on John's case data to generate this summary in the format that I need as a service agent. So navigating to the admin experience, let's take a look at this prompt, what we're actually doing. Starting with version 1 of this prompt, you can see that we are, again, specifying the context. We are saying that you are a support representative tasked with creating a short summary of open cases for the customer. And then again, we're grounding this prompt on a flow, right? So this flow is iterating through the cases associated with John, pulling in those that are active, and highlighting the relevant information for each case. Now, that's great, and that's going to generate, a pretty solid summary, but it might be a little bit too verbose for me. So this is where the iterative power of versions in Prompt Builder really come into play. So you'll see in version 4, which I've pre-made for demo purposes here, I have changed a few small details about this prompt. I've asked that the LLM only summarize cases where the case status is escalated. And I've also asked that the LLM is summarizing in bullet points instead of paragraph form, so that my service agents, when they're looking at contacts, can really rapidly get that context that they need to get on board in their communications with their customers. Now, let's run this against John again, just to ensure that the output that we're looking for is roughly what we're hoping to see, that the bullets are coming back in correct format, that only escalated cases are being summarized. And again, this is a live demo, so the LLMs take a little while sometimes. But what we can see here is that in the response from the LLM, we are pulling in our 4 escalated cases. We're adding some summary data, some quick field level information, right? And making all this available to our service agents right in the flow of work. So that's awesome. The LLM's doing the heavy lifting. This is saving me, minutes as I pick up new contacts on a daily basis in terms of setting the context and, developing this understanding of what's going on. But it's not dynamic quite yet, right? One thing that we're missing here is that when John files a new case, the summary is not going to update today. We've already wired it up to the field, but the agent still has to go click that button to make sure that they're looking at the most accurate data, the most up-to-date data. Now, using the power of flow, however, we can set this up programmatically so that anytime a new record is filed by John, a new case record is created by John, we're actually able to auto-update the value of the summary field. So let me show you how we've implemented that behind the scenes. Here, we just have a record-triggered flow. This is triggered anytime a case record is created. And let me talk you through a few steps here. Step 1 is getting records associated with cases, right? So what we're doing here is we're finding John's contact for this new case. Then what we are doing is we're actually calling that prompt template that we just defined in Prompt Builder via invocable action, right? And what we're doing is we're passing the contact along, which in this case will be John, right? But this can be any contact who's filing a new case, into the prompt as input so that the merge fields are hydrated based on that specific contact, right? Then we're updating the contact field on the summary field on the contact, and then the flow will go ahead and write that programmatically, right? So this means that I, as a service agent, can go to John at any given moment, and the summary that Einstein is generating will always be up to date with the escalated cases in bullet point format that John has filed at that moment in time. Now, those are a couple of key use cases from the service user's perspective and from the sales user's perspective. But this really extends, the video wants to play. Let's get to the next slide. So the sales use case we saw was generating a sales email personalized to the contact in Email Builder, right? We started in Email Composer, showing you the sales user's experience. Then we went into Prompt Builder and actually created this prompt template grounded on data. Then we activated the template and saw how our sales users can now access this generative AI-enabled functionality in their flow of work. In our service use case, we followed a similar process. We set up our field generation prompt in Lightning. And then we showed you how behind the scenes, you're again just constructing and activating your prompt template and then how you can use flows to automate the invocation of this prompt template in the relevant workflows to make sure that the data on your contact records is up to date at any given moment in time. But beyond just sales and service, there are so many use cases for generative AI, all of which are enabled via Prompt Builder. In marketing, you could think of creating a new newsletter for a product on a weekly or daily basis even. This is a super tedious process for your marketers that Prompt Builder and LLMs can automate for you into a matter of minutes. In commerce, you can look towards creating product catalogs, creating dynamic descriptions referencing key CRM information about each product. And for your IT folks, for other use cases beyond just our cornerstone apps, you're able to use flows and use grounding data within Prompt Builder to build out these custom use cases wherever they may be across your industry-specific applications. All right, and with that, I'll pass it back to Avantika to explain what we saw behind the scenes a little bit.
Yeah, thank you, Luke. Let's give Luke a round of applause. That was an amazing
Thank you all for
demo.
listening.
All right, so you all saw Prompt Builder literally hot off the press, live as a demo. Now you saw it's real, it's working. Now I want to talk you through how it fits into the rest of our stack. How do we actually actualize this within the organization? What does it look like to use Prompt Builder? And then where does it fit within the rest of the Einstein Copilot stack? Now, if you think about Prompt Builder and using it for your business, typically the first thing you want to do is think about a use case. What use case is typically repetitive, typically very similar, that you feel like you can automate through prompts? For example, generating a summary, drafting an email, generating a product recommendation, creating a campaign. Then you can head into Prompt Builder and think about, what do we have already out there to help you do this? We have a number of out-of-the-box templates, and these templates are going to continue expanding over the next few months as we get sales, service, marketing, all these prompt templates available for you, a library of templates so that you can get started much quicker. So then you see if you want to use an out-of-the-box template that you think you can customize, or if you want to create your own template starting from scratch. Then you think about how you want to use your data effectively. How do you want to bring in your data? Whether it's in your CRM, whether it's outside Salesforce and you want to bring it in through Data Cloud, whether you want to use Flow Builder or even MuleSoft to bring in external data. So that data strategy is really important to see how you want to ground your prompts. And of course, everything goes through our Einstein Trust Layer, so you can rest easy that we're never going to leak your data. And finally, you need to think about these embedded experiences. How do you want your frontline workers to use these prompts? Whether it's the agent, your sales reps, how will they actually leverage these prompt templates within their flow of work? So there are many different pillars to think through to make it actionable for your business. Now, we're going to get into a little bit of architecture here, talk about how this fits into the rest of our Einstein platform. As you know, the goal here is to have an AI copilot into every app, unified metadata, make it low code, and democratize access to prompting across your organization. Now, if we think about how this works behind the scenes, starting from the bottom here, that's where we have our foundational layer, which we call, LLMs, so allowing you to use your own models, using some of the out-of-the-box models that Salesforce provides, whether it's OpenAI or Anthropic, some of the vendors that we have partnerships with, or even models that our own research team has built in-house for you to use, like the code generation models. Then a step above that is the Einstein Trust Layer. How do we make sure that we have a layer in between your data and the models to make sure that all this data goes through securely, whether it's retrieving the data securely, masking the data properly, or even detecting any toxicity in the outputs. Then comes your actual data. Whether you want to bring in data from your CRM, whether you want to bring in data from Data Cloud, you have all that flexibility. And then you need to think about the low-code builders that we provide at your disposal to actually bring all this together. So within the umbrella of a Copilot Studio, we have a model builder, which allows you to connect and test your models. We have a prompt builder, which you just saw, which allows you to create and test your prompts on your data. And then we also have the Copilot Action Builder. If you think about Copilot, a prompt is just one of the many actions available to a Copilot. So you have all these low-code builders for you to actually bring your data together and use it to your advantage. And of course, these prompt templates are super extensible. They can be invoked via APIs, through flows, or even through the Copilot. And finally, you have the embedded experiences that you can plug these into, whether it's sales, service, marketing, or any custom UI that you want to invoke these prompt templates from. Now, a lot of questions come up about trust, and I'm sure you might have also seen a version of this slide here. But just to quickly walk through, what is our trust layer, right? We keep talking about how we do all this, data masking and trusted prompting. What does that actually mean? So if we think about the life cycle of a prompt, typically we start here on the left, and I'm going to go through more of a horseshoe as I explain this. You have your applications, you have your copilot. As we know earlier, all of these are powered by prompt templates and data. Now, the first thing we need to do is when we want to retrieve your data, we need to make sure that we securely retrieve that data, right? Based on the context of the user who's executing that prompt, we need to make sure that we look at their access rights and pull in the right data for that user profile, making sure we're not escalating any permissions, making sure we're securely retrieving that data. Next, we need to dynamically ground the prompt based on the context that they're operating in to keep it relevant. Once we have all this data in the prompt, we call it a hydrated prompt, meaning it's the template with all the right references to the data that's been resolved. And then we need to mask this data. So if you have sensitive information like names, phone numbers, or addresses, we have a model that detects this automatically behind the scenes and masks it before it gets sent to a large language model. And we also mask it in context so that we still have the context maintained. We also have a set of prompt defense heuristics to make sure that the LLM can reduce its chances of hallucinating, and we can prevent prompt injection attacks from taking place. So we have a set of policies that we make sure that the LLM does not follow any kind of rogue instructions that are provided by an end user, and that it doesn't make any kind of assumptions on data that it's not been provided with. We do have a zero data retention policy with all our model vendors, whether it's OpenAI or Anthropic, to make sure that they don't see, store, or process your data. And then when the response gets generated, on the way back, the first thing we do is we actually screen it for any toxicity so that your organization can implement any kind of measures on top of that, whether you want to monitor it, you want to set alerts or automations on top of it, it's completely at your disposal. We also have data demasking, so we unmask all the data so that the context is back into the response, and then we store all this data in your audit trail. So you have the prompt, you have the response, you have the feedback and the toxicity information all stored within your organization, whether you want to run reports or analytics, but it's there for your auditing purposes. And finally, the response gets surfaced back in your application. Obviously, it seems like a large process, but this is everything that goes behind the scenes in the trust layer. And of course, we've tested it to make sure it's highly performant as well. Now, we went through about 30 minutes of content so far, and I hope you all were listening, but in case you felt really bored and you didn't pick up anything from this presentation, here are some of the key takeaways I do hope you walk away with. First, what is Prompt Builder, right? It's your one-stop shop. Right now it's for admins, but soon we're opening it up to non-admins as well. But it's essentially a place where you can easily design, test, and refine your grounded prompts on your data using prompt templates and knowing that it goes through our trusted Einstein layer framework. And you can invoke these from anywhere within Salesforce. When is it useful? Well, essentially, you need to think about use cases that are kind of repetitive in nature. So it helps automate repetitive tasks or tasks that usually require a lot of time to generate content, and automate those tasks within your organization. And how do you use it? Well, one, if you want to think about licensing, you need to make sure you have either Einstein GPT for sales or service, or the Einstein 1 SKU that we released. Then you go ahead and turn on Einstein within setup, and then you assign the right perm sets within your organization. And finally, you can navigate to Prompt Builder within setup and start playing around with this new tool. Now that you learned about Prompt Builder, I'm super excited to turn it over to Luke and David to actually make this real for you and show you how we had our first customer implement Prompt Builder at Accenture. So let's go ahead and pass it over to Luke and David.
So you just answer your questions, Luke?
Yeah, that's the plan. At this point, we get to stay seated. We get to be
all right, okay,
and start navigating through a couple of prompts here that we've prepared for you. So jumping into things, David, I would love it if you could tell us a little bit about the first Accenture Salesforce Gen AI client that you worked with.
Yeah, sure. So at Accenture, we are very big on AI. Julie Sweet, our CEO, announced last year that we're going to invest a significant amount of money into AI. And that's great for us because that kind of formed our kind of Salesforce Generative AI Hub, which is where I am. I play a role as like a technical architect. I've got a lot of people from our team on the front row here who do a great job. So we're combining my best of like Salesforce and AI practice in Accenture together. And where that's really great is we got to go with our first client, who is a B2B manufacturing client, very big on Service Cloud. So we were very excited to get into using all these really great products we saw at Dreamforce last year, working with both of you guys to kind of start rolling that out actually to clients. So that was our first client.
Phenomenal. It's crazy to hear that, just, 4 months prior to implementation of this product, we're already seeing success out there in the wild.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go back one. I think you skipped only one. All right, so David, would love to hear about the business problems that you at Accenture and this client were looking to solve in the initial Gen AI implementation.
Sure. So what I love about kind of a hub that we have at Accenture is we kind of go first with understanding those problems. So we go in with a lot of very smart process design people to understand what the business problems are. And there were a lot of common problems that came out of these workshops, which is what we saw on the screen there. It was like lots of swivel chairs, like going to different systems, lots of problems with handover between service and sales, and all those kind of problems where we kind of, in these workshops, got these are major pain points for us. These cause us to do lots of extra time processing. And then we kind of pointed those to the Salesforce products and go, oh, actually, if we did prompt builder, we could get a lot of savings in time, lots of better customer satisfaction, all that good stuff. So that's the main problems were exactly that. Just
Gotcha. And swivel chairing and pivoting between.
Swivel chairing was the number one for sure. Yep.
Okay. So that's where the LLM was able to shine.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, would love to hear a bit about how you are embracing AI holistically across, both generative, right, which is the new flashy tool, and the predictive tool, which has been here a little bit longer.
It's great, and always what we find when we go into these conversations with clients, it's not just a Gen AI story; it's a predictive and Gen AI story always together. So when we were talking to these guys, it was very much, our case process, we're not doing a great job of classifying our cases. Okay, that's Einstein classification. That's predictive. Let's put that into the kind of poster in, and then what can we benefit from that? We can open up the generative AI side. So, from these workshop approaches where we understand all the problems, we can tell that story okay, is this a fundamental Salesforce item we need to address, or is this a predictive Einstein, or is this kind of the generative Einstein? So we kind of approach it that way to kind of get the whole picture of what we need to solve with the products.
Gotcha. And then in addition to solutions, what were the adoption and governance procedures that you've seen success with today with this client?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of with these clients, and at Accenture, we've got a lot of really good change management people who come in to kind of help drive a lot of this. So it was understanding, first it was getting comfortable with AI, so that was kind of making sure that, this is not going to replace their jobs, or this is going, it's going to help you, is getting that message across to a lot of people. So that was a big fundamental part that we played. And then, it was just kind of measuring okay, how happy are you using these AI tools? Is this going to be in the flow of work? Is this helping you, or is this actually causing more problems? And that we've got those feedbacks to kind of get that really good kind of understanding of the adoptions. And
Gotcha. Yeah, making sure that humans are in the loop, that the feedback is bidirectional the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. So let's hear about the solutions.
Yeah, sure.
What did you build?
So if you go to the next slide, we started with. So I'll talk about the first two very quickly. So we went in with the generative emails and the case summaries. So these are very much the turnkey solutions. We love to use the phrase of getting people off the bench with AI and generative AI. So we put these in place. These were very quick for us to kind of get people going with. Some of them were foundational, so we had to make sure for the generative email side, they had a knowledge base in place. So we worked a lot with kind of making their knowledge base kind of friendly for AI kind of responses. So that's a lot of the work we did there. But these two use cases were extremely easy for us to turn on and to get that feedback and getting people very comfortable. But once we laid those two out, it opened up the really big use case for us, which was prompt builder using custom prompts. Now, one thing I really love about this client is they've been using Service Cloud for years. They've been using it for a good 10 years. So they already built a lot of custom integrations. They had a lot of data in the system. and they had a lot of flows, a lot of Apex, which was great for us. So we could use Prompt Builder to leverage all the flows, leverage all the integrations they previously built, and start bringing that now into, which was just like a record field context. We can start using that in a Gen AI side, so we can like start summarizing all the invoices they had, understanding like, okay, which invoices are open and have been past due for many days, and what's the commentary on those, and taking all those inputs, and we got to start making a generative prompt from there. So yeah, Prompt Builder was like, for us on the technical architect side, we're just like, wow, we can do so many things, and we're so excited with like the phase 2 with these. People's like, we can open a Prompt Builder, we can bring in Data Cloud, like super excited with everything there with Prompt Builder.
Phenomenal, and you can see at the bottom there, this is driving value across every service metric that you're keeping tabs on.
Oh, 100%, yes.
Awesome. On that value note, how did you measure the effectiveness of AI, and what was the impact on this client?
Yeah, like what we were saying before, the first thing was just really how the users were finding it in their flow of work. Like, were they happy to use this? Was there a lot of, were the responses they were getting, were they like, that's not really what we need? So we got a lot of really positive feedback, and that's how we started measuring it. The feedback we got did open up some fundamental, like, oh, okay, we should be using AI in a different way. Like maybe we should look at more other areas in Salesforce to do. But so that really did help us, like just that kind of raw feedback from the users really helped us how effective we were. And should we do more prompts? Should we actually use more different products? So it's super helpful just getting that like line of sight from the users.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great to hear. It's a collaborative process throughout this
Exactly, 100%.
Everyone's new to this tool, and so learning it together in the flow of work is the best way to approach it. I believe here we have a quote from this client.
Yeah, 100%, and this is a little bit what we were saying. So, like I said, we also work across the business, technical, and the business side. From both, they were like, this generative custom responses, they were like, wow, this could open up so much for us. And then very much on the technical side it's like they just saw the roadmap and like, wow, we can do so much with our Salesforce product going forward with that. So in all, like our client on the business side, super happy with the possibilities that can happen. And then on the IT side and technical side, it's like, wow, our Salesforce product has got a whole new lease of life. We can do so many amazing things in the future. So we're super, really excited to work with these guys again.
Phenomenal. All right. And that wraps up our presentation. Thank you all for being here. We're so excited to share Prompt Builder with you all today. Thank you to the team in the room as well. We have 2 of our fabulous engineers here who helped make this product a reality, Siddhi and Kumar. Thank you. None of us would be here without you. And yeah, we have this is at about 50 seconds.
Yeah,
if you have any questions,
50 seconds of questions.
Come up if you have any
come on up.
questions.
We can stick around a little bit longer afterwards as well if you want to hear about the solution David's worked on, about the product itself from us.